What's up, everybody? It is Andy with Nerds on the Run coming to you once again with something a little bit different today. I thought I'd take a little bit of a break from all the drama in the news with everything going on with Marvel and Disney and all that stuff. Truthfully, stuff coming out of DC Studios has never been super fantastic. With the rare exception in the form of Shazam, which I actually recently saw on a plane, and I was quite enamored. But I want to take a break from all that, go off the beaten path, and try something from our friends over at Oni Press. Now, if you all don't know, Oni Press are, a Portland-based publisher that are known for kind of a lot of cartoon covers for the most part. They do have some other notable exceptions in the form of Scott Pilgrim, actually. Scott Pilgrim is one of my very, very favorites. Um, and if you've only seen the movie, which I dearly love, I would also recommend checking out the miniseries because it's super sharp. Has a very different art form than a lot of the comics I've seen. Oni Press, among the cartoon covers that they have, Invader Zim and the highlight of today, Rick and Morty, are going to be some fun ones for me to get into. So I'm hopeful that you all would be interested in hearing a little bit about those series. So, I'm bringing to you today Rick and Morty Volume 1. This is something that I may not get a lot of love for, but I'm definitely a trades guy when it comes to what I'm into as far as trades versus issues. I have a great deal of respect for those of you that are issue collectors out there. If you bag and board and keep them looking nice, I think that's something that's super special, and I've been known to dabble at some used bookstores and things like that to look them over. I think there's something very, very fun and nostalgic about that. But ultimately, I do not. I'm a guy that uses my comic books quite a lot, and they're like coffee table books to me. So having the trade is something that I definitely value. So let me know if you have any comments about that down below. I really like the trades. Most of the trades that I have are pretty gently used. They're looking good, but definitely used nevertheless. Um, let's talk a little bit about Rick and Morty and see what you all think of this series. There are two Rick and Morty series kind of concurrently running by Oni Press right now. Rick and Morty Presents is sort of a kind of off the beaten path. It's even more diverted or tangential than the main show's plot. Whereas Rick and Morty, just plain old Rick and Morty, is something that could happen within the multiverse of the show. It's not, to my knowledge, it's not technically canon, but which we'll get into a little bit. I will say there are going to be some incidental spoilers here. I'm not going to get super far into it if you are interested in picking these up yourself. So let's talk more about Rick and Morty Volume 1. It collects the first 5 issues from the series, and for those of you that aren't really into the trades, they break them down by chapter, and usually the artwork that was the issue cover is sort of the chapter header, so I do like that. There are some trades out there that have some special editorializing and they don't include the original covers, but this is one of the types of trades that does. It doesn't have variant covers and stuff like that in the back of it. My guess is because someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Rick and Morty have variant covers too often. I do know of some of the side series, which we could talk about another time, that do have variant covers, and they are discussed. The special edition of Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons is what I'm referring to. But that's not part of this main series. This main series is done by Zach Gorman, is the writer, and the art is done by C.J. Cannon. And there's some bonus art in the back as well for some of the shorts. So in addition to the 5 main chapters that are the first 5 issues of the series, you also get these long form, longer than newspaper comic strip, but about a page to 2 to 3 on the long side of these kind of bonus shorts. Some of them have sort of that interdimensional cable vibe to them for fans of the show. Some of them are just sort of plain old straight up, about the main characters. But they're done by a gentleman named Mark Ellerby. So we'll get into that in a little bit. This first series, from what I can tell so far, definitely fits right in with the show. It captures tonally very much the kind of macabre and sort of sometimes sorrowful nature of Rick and Morty, but also the comedy is there and also the heart is there as well. So the first issue gets into a sort of time flubbing stock market heist gone awry. Of course, it's like a space stock market that Rick Sanchez knows about. It's not the Earth one. So that's something that leads to some fun adventures. The second issue covers a daring escape from a space prison maze, which again, that may as well have been lifted right out of a lost episode or something. There's another issue where they're contending with a body doubling cloner beast. It's not a retread of the Parasite episode. I think it's season 2. Of the cartoon, but it is sort of there's an element of that, I guess, a little bit, but it serves its own purpose. A little bit of this ex machina kind of silliness that. Anyway, I won't get too far into it, but it's a fun time. And then there's a dictatorial overthrow with a kind of an interdimensional workforce that happens. Gets into a little bit of a commentary for sure on how some things are nowadays. And then the last issue covers a summer camp adventure with Scary Terry. So I do love that there are, at least so far, there are cameos from characters in the show. There are cameos, from some of those side characters that we know and love. There are some really interesting bouts with some of the main series characters. Just as far as my critical appraisal of it goes, I don't really do numerical reviews and all of that kind of thing, but I will say that qualitatively speaking, the writing really captures sort of the spoken cadence of a lot of the characters, especially Rick. Actually, especially everybody, but I say especially Rick because his hallmark belching mid-sentence is even kind of spelled out with interesting onomatopoeias and elongating of lettering within his comic boxes. So they really capture that stuff very well. I will say C.J. Cannon's art really captures the static look of the characters from the show. It has kind of an emulative nature to it. And his action is really dynamic and bright. I think it's really on point. Bonus points for Mark Ellerby, who did the bonuses. I will say that the art isn't quite as strong for me, but the emotive nature of the characters really do capture some of their mannerisms. Summer, Morty, Jerry, some of their mannerisms better, I think, than Cannon's art might. So, there's a little bit of a trade-off there. But the bonuses are definitely worth it, and I'm glad that they, for whatever reason, they include those in there. There's something fun about them for sure. I did think this goes into some mild spoiler territory, but it's totally incidental to the actual book itself. I did think I would have an issue with this book being not canon with the actual cartoon per se. And the reason I say it's not canon is because of the infinite multiverse of infinite Ricks and all of that. They do reveal pretty early on as a throwaway line that our hero Rick Sanchez from Dimension C-137 is not the Rick and Morty that are featured here, but rather the Rick and Morty from Dimension C-132. At first it hit me and I was like, if none of this stuff really matters, then what's the point? But that's, I guess, kind of a driving sentiment of the show. And when you really get into it, because the characterization is so good, because the jokes land and the heartfelt moments land and the kind of commentary stuff is fascinating, it ends up really not affecting things. And truthfully, there's something incredibly freeing about it because they can kind of do anything they want with it and don't have to stick to any kind of presupposed canon or anything like that that's set up by the cartoon, especially the 7 or whatever seasons that are yet to come. So if you're interested in picking up Rick and Morty by Oni Press, I recommend going for the trades. They are not terribly expensive. They range anywhere from $12 to $15 on Amazon. You can get them at I haven't seen the issues of them readily available at local stores, but I'm sure you could get them if you've got an eclectic comic book shop near you that has some of the Dark Horse and Oni Press stuff in it. I'm sure because the show is really big time right now, you'll find this stuff pretty easily. So I hope that you all consider liking, commenting, subscribing, letting me know what you think about this series, or letting me know what you think about me doing this kind of sort of informal review and play-by-play with some of the trades that I do have in my collection. I'd certainly love to keep doing it with this series in particular because I'm having a lot of fun with it. I hope you all are having a swell day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.